Welcome to Voices of the Community, which explores critical issues facing Northern California communities. We introduce you to the voices of community thought leaders and change makers who are working on solutions that face our fellow individual community members, neighborhoods, cities, and our region. This is George Koster, your host. This episode is part of our series exploring COVID-19's impact on nonprofits and small businesses in the San Francisco Bay Area. Back in April of 2020, when we decided to create this ongoing series on COVID-19's impact, first on nonprofits and then on small businesses in the San Francisco Bay Area, we, like you, had no idea how long the pandemic would go on and what the health and economic impact would be in our community. Going into 2021, the pandemic is now killing more people, shutting down more nonprofits and small businesses, along with wiping out the livelihoods of families, neighborhoods, and communities. We will continue to shine a spotlight on the nonprofits and small businesses that make up the fabric of our community, along with the founders and staff who are struggling to deal with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on their operations, services, and sustainability until we can all get to the other side of the pandemic. Along the way, we will also share with you all the amazing solutions that our nonprofits, small businesses, foundations, and government leaders are working on to help us all get to the other side of the pandemic and come together to rebuild our communities with more economic, social, and environmental equality.
Everyone you speak to will say, I was walking down the street and it was devastating. Half the storefronts were closed. You hear the stories, you know what's happening, and people are appreciating and recognizing the real importance of small businesses and how much they are part of the social fabric of our communities.
This is the Chief Executive Officer, Sharon Miller, and Program Director, Tim Russell of the Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center. Today's episode is part of our efforts to better understand the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the small businesses and entrepreneurs that make up the economic fabric of our neighborhoods. We wanted to feature the voices of the Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center, whose 30-year mission is to provide intensive entrepreneurship training, networking, and mentorship to support the launch and growth of women-owned businesses through their U.S. Small Business Administration San Francisco Women's Business Center, and to find out what they're doing to help our entrepreneurs survive the economic meltdown. Let's hear from Sharon and Tim on what they and their regional team at Renaissance are doing to help small business owners survive and thrive during the pandemic. I'm joined remotely via Zoom by Sharon Miller, the Chief Executive Officer, and Tim Russell, the Program Director of Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center. Thanks for being here, Sharon and Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I'd like to start because, once again, Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center is one of those really wonderful services for small businesses and entrepreneurs and anyone who has an idea of starting businesses in the San Francisco Bay Area that a lot of people just don't know about. So I would love to start with having each of you provide the audience an overview of the Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center, its programs both in San Francisco and the East Bay, which I'll have Sharon, you provide, and then Tim, have you provide the Mid-Peninsula and South Bay. So Sharon?
Great. So Renaissance is completely dedicated to entrepreneurship, and our focus is helping to provide access to people who don't have traditional access to training, resources, and networks. So that's where we come in. People come to us with great ideas, a ton of passion, and then we provide training, access to capital, access to markets, and access to networks. So the training that we do really focuses on intensive classes that take people from the idea feasibility stage into the business planning stage and further to the growth stage. So we're helping people to first see themselves as entrepreneurs, understand what it takes to be an entrepreneur, start that business, and once they have it, grow the business. So you asked about San Francisco and the East Bay. We do work with people at all levels of business in both locations. In San Francisco, we are the San Francisco U.S. SBA Women's Business Center, so we add further services for women there. Anyone throughout San Francisco or the Bay Area can come and take our classes. We also have a center in Bayview Hunters Point that focuses on that community. And in Oakland, we are working with businesses in, of course, Oakland. Richmond, and East Contra Costa County.
Thank you. That was great. And Tim, how does Renaissance Center support entrepreneurs in San Mateo and Santa Clara County?
Just basically to piggyback off of what Sharon said, we are an organization that is regional and in the South Bay and then that's serving the San Mateo County and Santa Clara County and small businesses and entrepreneurs. We really are coming alongside of those entrepreneurs and small business owners and helping them turn their passion to profit. And I think that's what we really strive for, is giving them the tools that they need, because we already know that they're gifted. They're gifted at what they do, but they need the support and the technical assistance to be able to really be sustainable. So we really are working with those communities, like Sharon says, that are underserved and underrepresented, by coming in and giving them the tools so that they can launch and grow their business. And again, like I said earlier, turn their passion to profit.
Well, and so much of what you do is been in person, especially the really wonderful workshops that you do with entrepreneurs to take an idea all the way through. How has COVID-19 impacted the operation of the Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center's programs? Sharon, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I think like everyone else in the world, we quickly moved and we put all of our programs and services online. And that required us to pivot our curriculum. So what had been delivered in person was delivered by Zoom for the most part. Our staff also reached out to all of our clients by email, by phone, by text, recognizing that we couldn't just do one thing to reach people in need. And we expanded our programming. In addition to our regular classes and workshops on starting a business, growing a business, we offered a whole host of services that were about how to pivot your business, how to move your business online, what other things you can do as a business owner to survive the pandemic.
And Tim, how about you with regards to your work with entrepreneurs?
I think that the one thing that we, realized during the pandemic was we thrived in being a community and bringing entrepreneurs into a community where they could learn from one another. They could understand best practices from one another. It wasn't just, here's a curriculum, here's the information, go out there and be great. No, we really brought them together and said, let's create this community so that you can continue to thrive even after the workshops. You could work together as small business owners. You can find out different resources from each other. We realized that because we weren't able to come together anymore and had to go online, we had to create that same community, but online. And we were pleasantly surprised that we were able to do it. And that's hats off to our CEO and her vision on how to do it. And also the staff, how can we maintain community, not coming together anymore into a building? And we did it. We grew in our services. We grew in our classes and in our workshops because we were successful at creating community even online.
With coming up on 10 months now plus of being in this lovely meltdown situation, and I would consider the meltdown to be both a financial meltdown as well as a health and safety meltdown. And so many of these entrepreneurs are sole proprietors, for example. What are some of the needs that you're seeing out there for these small, some of them micro enterprises, some mid-scale businesses? And I'm going to turn back to you, Tim, to answer this question and then go to Sharon. But what are you seeing as some of the biggest needs? Is it financing? Is it mentorship?
I think at the onset of the pandemic, I had a conversation with Sharon and I said, hey, Sharon, they need funding. They need money like right now. They are losing their properties. They are losing their sales. We did a survey that I believe Sharon will just talk about a little bit deeper, where we realized from the entrepreneurs and the small businesses themselves that they had lost so much in revenue. They did not have the necessary tools in place to be able to pivot themselves the way they felt like they needed to. So we felt like the needs were funding at the top, technology a close second, if not a 1A. And then just that technical assistance. I think a lot of the entrepreneurs just needed that constant reminder and encouragement that you can make it, you can make it, you can make it. So we became not only small business support staff for them, but we almost became therapists, business therapists to let them know you can make it. Okay, just breathe, because you're going to make it. And you know what? It worked. And small businesses were able to show resiliency because of realizing that they were stronger than they thought.
Sharon, same question, and I would love to find out from you some of the output from your survey of small businesses.
Sure. We knew quickly that everyone was in crisis. And, way back in March, no one thought we would be here at this time. I remember having conversations and thinking like, oh, we're going to be back at work in May. Well, May when is now the question. So we decided to conduct a survey to find out what was going on with our clients and really hoping that maybe someone would give us an idea that we hadn't thought of. But what we found was, unfortunately not surprising that people did not have financial reserves. It's not unusual for a small business to put one foot in front of the next and not necessarily have enough money put away for a crisis. We found, as Tim said, they needed cash. They still had bills. They were deeply committed to their employees and wanted to support them. And they couldn't necessarily figure out what they needed initially to say, I have a service business. I do puppet shows. That's what I do. People come and see my puppet shows, and then they come and they make puppets because they see how fun they are. Well, how can we help you to pivot that idea and say, let's see if we can figure out puppet making kits, online puppet shows. But you often need to talk that through to someone because you've had your vision for your business very clearly structured. We also found that the digital divide is huge, that 40% of our clients were using cell phones for all of their technology needs. So that just doesn't work. If you need to create a website and you need to do e-commerce and people need to find you, your cell phone is just not enough. We even found that in our classes, you can't do a spreadsheet on your cell phone. So that there was such a disadvantage that people had and they didn't know where to start. So what we did is we looked at ways we could fill those gaps. We were able to get Chromebooks for people who didn't have computers. We were able to help people by building websites for them, teaching social media, teaching them how to do online sales, how to do e-commerce. So those were just big gaping needs that we were able to see and fill.
Thank you. That was great. I'm going to stay with you, Sharon, because you've been at the helm of Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center for a while and been through the 2008 meltdown as well. So over the years that you've been here, both being a business therapist as well as a change maker within the community, what do you feel is some of the biggest impact that the Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center has made on the community of dreamers who want to start a business to small business folks, especially women entrepreneurs?
So I like to call us first responders more than therapists right now. But what we've seen this year, generally, we serve about 1,800 to 2,000 people a year. And the clients we serve are primarily lower income, about 90% lower income, 75% people of color, 75% women. So that's the profile. What we saw in 2020 is that we serve 3,000 people. So we serve 50% more people than ever before. So we know that people need help and they're coming to Renaissance for that help. So I feel like we have been able to be a trusted advisor to small businesses. We are a place that they come to when they need capital. We are helping people to both see that entrepreneurship is a possibility. We create networks for them. And then we provide them with the training and the acumen so that they can be successful and let them know, like, we are here for you throughout the life cycle of your business. So we are that support system that you may not have elsewhere.
I like to talk about somebody who just, every time I think of, resiliency and how they were able to pivot their business and how they were able to survive and be a spokesman for us is Goro Mitchell of Mitchell's Chem Dry. He was able to pivot his business and go from, when he started with us, being a carpet cleaning business to pivoting to be a sanitizing business where they were able to go in and do some of the COVID sanitation that was needed for small businesses, homes, churches, and other nonprofits. So he was able to pivot his business, realizing that, you know what, not everybody's looking to get their carpet done right now. They are, some still are, but how else can we grow? And we were able to come in and be that support to him, that back end support to be able to help him pivot. And I like to say this, not just help him pivot, but help market it. So I think that one of the things that we don't get enough credit probably or we don't talk about enough, we'll say, is we become the marketing arm for a lot of small businesses who are still learning how to market. So as Sharon said, we're first responders, but we're also that marketing arm for them as well to say, hey, look over here. This company is great. So I think Goro Mitchell encompasses that whole thing, helping them start, helping them pivot, and then being the marketing arm for him so that he can grow his business, not just in the communities that he lives in, the community that he lives in, which is East Palo Alto, but East Bay called him, South Bay called him, that he was able to grow his business because we were able to be his marketing arm. So from start to finish, and even now, you know, I would say he is probably one that I think of right away that's done a great job of growing, pivoting, and expanding his business.
Thank you. It's a wonderful story of seeing the market and then changing to the market. And with first responders and therapists wrapped around him, he's been able to succeed.
Exactly.
So Sharon, how can folks who are listening to the show help the Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center programs? Both you as a organization, because you have to stay alive yourselves, but also if someone arrives at your website, how can they support some of the small businesses that we've described today?
Great. One thing is to please keep supporting small businesses. It's very convenient to shop online, but please do that with small businesses. If there are businesses that you used to support but can't go to right now, you can't get a facial or a massage, like buy gift certificates, do what you can to keep supporting those businesses. If your house cleaners aren't coming to your house, you could still pay them, like that's okay. But however you can look inside and support small businesses is key. As far as Renaissance directly, Tim mentioned some of the marketing. We found that as part of the technology work that we were doing, we're helping people to get online and helping people to have this online presence. And our part of it now is helping people to access customers. So one of the things that we're doing is hosting online marketplaces. We have one coming up on February 25th. It's going to be a showcase of Black-owned businesses. So you can find out information on our website, sign up, and there'll be business presentations along with shopping opportunities.
So in that, is it somewhat like crowdfunding where someone who watches a presentation can actually donate or invest in one of the small businesses?
Anyone who would like to invest, we would welcome you to do that. But this is really a meet and greet the business owners and buy their products. That's how this particular marketplace is set up. We'll be doing that in February. We will be doing another one in March for Women's History Month. And we're going to keep doing these once a month as a way to increase exposure to our clients, and then hopefully to have opportunities that exposure will just lead to sales directly. We also welcome people who are interested in being mentors to our clients. We, of course, ask that you have a certain business skill set that would be a good fit for our clients and make at least a 10-hour commitment to working with somebody. And of course, donating. We're able to do what we do. We are a nonprofit, and we appreciate support that allows us to do more of what we do very well.
And do you have any special COVID-19 programs going or any specific programs for the Women's Business Center as an example?
Sure. Well, we do have a Women's Leadership Council, and that is a group of women who are business owners, corporate executives, retired people, just a whole range of women who get involved specifically to support Renaissance and our women's program. So they provide leadership, they help us to raise funds, and they also participate as business advisors. So that's one program. And I would say right now, everything we're doing is a COVID-19 program because we're doing it on these online formats and we're constantly revising our curriculum. We learned how to do what we do in person really well. And as Tim was talking about earlier, so much of our work is building networks, building confidence. It's so much harder to do that online. And we also just started doing it immediately online. So we're refining and revisiting our programs to make sure that all of our training is helping people throughout COVID, but to be able to thrive beyond COVID as well.
Back to mentors for a moment in financing. If someone out there who's listening to this has a specialty in doing things like SBA applications or, working with PPP programs, is that something that you guys are looking for to help your entrepreneurs as they go through the gauntlet, if you will, of SBA and government financing?
Yes, it's hugely helpful because it's hard to fill out some of these forms, and even some of these grant programs are hard to access. They require a lot of documentation, and we can very much use help in that area.
And if I could add to that, the reason why I think that we are trusted advisors and for small business owners is because we don't just get, Uncle Al to come and tell them about business, if I could say it like that. We really get small business experts. We really want people who have failed forward, people who have owned businesses, people who have pivoted to come and mentor and be the small business consultant. So who we put in front of our small business owners are vetted by us. Their resume is looked at and examined, their small business success, and even sometimes their failure and learning from that is looked at, because we want the small businesses to get sound advice and consulting.
Thank you. That was a great insight. So I'm going to stay with you, Tim, and ask, these are a final question for each of you. What are some of the good things that you could see coming out of the pandemic and financial meltdown that would help small businesses and entrepreneurs?
I think number one, I think small businesses, Sharon may laugh at this, but they got their paperwork together now, boy. I mean, when they first at the onset of it, they were like, oh, I needed that. Oh, my goodness, I needed that. And to qualify for a lot of the government aid that was out there, they were not ready. They didn't have the necessary paperwork, or maybe they were like, oh, I'll get to that later. Now, I think through our consulting and through our support and through our staff, they have everything that they need. They have all their I's dotted and T's crossed, so that I think that in itself allows them to breathe a little bit easier. We're still in the midst of the pandemic, but I think that as things come up, grants and loans and possibilities, they feel better about qualifying and being ready to seize the opportunity, because we've helped them understand how to get the necessary documentation to show that they are legitimate, they're sustainable, and they're ready for some financial support.
And Sharon, same question.
So yes, in addition to what Tim said, I think that one of the things that has happened is that the pandemic has really highlighted small businesses and how integral they are to our lives and to our communities. So, everyone you speak to will say, I was walking down the street and it was devastating. Half the storefronts were closed. You hear the stories, you know what's happening, and people are appreciating and recognizing the real importance of small businesses and how much they are part of the social fabric of our communities. So I hope that will be one of the really important aspects that comes out of this, that, you got to support your small businesses or they won't be there. And if they're not there, our whole lives are really going to be lesser because of that. So that is my hope of a positive that will come out of it. I think that another thing that is coming out of it, in addition to what Tim is saying about businesses just improving their operations when they see there are opportunities and they can go for those opportunities, but really dealing with technology. We were doing a training program in public housing and we were stopped because there was insufficient internet access. So fortunately, we were working with the city of San Francisco and they were able to correct that situation. But everyone should have internet access. That's just appalling right now. So what we're seeing is that people are really increasing their technological savvy, and they're possibly people who maybe would not have done that before. But once they are making those improvements, they can promote their businesses so much wider and have greater opportunity.
And George, if I could add to that, I think more businesses now, because of the pandemic, have websites that have e-commerce on it. They realize that I can no longer just be a business that people walk in and shop. I have to be able to have a strong online presence. And so more businesses allowed us to help them build a website. We had website builders come in and do it for them. Professional photography taking place so that it wasn't just something off of their phone. So more businesses now have websites that have e-commerce so that they can make sure that they can continue to sell and grow their business even during the pandemic.
Thank you. Those are all really, really wonderful. So once again, support small businesses. Let's break down the digital divide, because it's not only the small businesses, it's students, it's even consumers that are out there. So I want to thank Sharon and Tim for sharing their team's work with the entrepreneurs and small businesses around the San Francisco Bay Area. We'll make sure that viewers have your contact information, website, and social media so they can follow and get engaged with the Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center programs and your entrepreneurs. And please stay safe and healthy as we all work our way through this very crazy new normal.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Voices of the Community. You've been listening to the voices of Sharon Miller, the Chief Executive Officer, and Tim Russell, the Program Director of Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center. Renaissance served 3,084 clients in 2020, and as you heard from both Sharon and Tim, access to capital is one of the biggest issues facing small businesses. Renaissance worked with their clients to secure over $18 million in capital in 2020. To find out more about Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center's entrepreneurship training, networking, and mentorship programs, and to get engaged as a volunteer, mentor, advisor, and participant in the online marketplace events for their small businesses they work with, please go to rencenter.org. In the process of developing our episodes on small businesses, we have been searching for studies to tease out the data of COVID-19's impact on small businesses. We found a poll that was conducted by Lake Research Partners for Small Business Majority, which surveyed 500 small business owners nationwide with oversamples of 300 Black, 300 Latino, and 150 Asian American Pacific Islander entrepreneurs across the United States between November 10th to November 23rd, 2020. The poll found that 90% of small business owners nationwide agreed that the availability of capital for small businesses is a problem. Before the pandemic hit, more than 1 in 5, or 21%, of small businesses did not have a business banking relationship with a bank or a credit union. Small business owners of color were also much less likely to have a business banking relationship pre-pandemic. 31% of Black, 28% of Asian American Pacific Islanders, and 26% of Latino business owners lacked business banking. Overall, roughly 4 in 10 small business owners have not obtained any capital, like loans or lines of credit, from any lending institution or even from friends or family. 31% of Black and 38% of Latino small business owners had not sought out capital before the pandemic. Of those who applied for a PPP loan last year, nearly 6 in 10, or 57%, found it challenging to apply. Entering into a new year, more entrepreneurs of color report they may temporarily close their business in the next 3 months. That's 32% of Latino, 29% of Black, and 25% of Asian American Pacific Islander business owners compared to just 21% of white business owners. Nearly 1 in 4, or 22%, of owners of color may lay off employees permanently compared to just 14% of white business owners. The survey also reveals support for government policies that small business entrepreneurs say would help them stay in business until the economy recovers. More than 80% of small business owners support providing direct grant assistance to small businesses, and 76% support another round of PPP loan dispersal. As Sharon mentioned, Renaissance has been working closely with women-owned small businesses over these past 3 decades, and we wanted to find out how access to capital and financial education has impacted their businesses. Here are some key findings from the National Women's Business Council Let's Talk Business Conference in February 2020, just as COVID-19 was hitting the economy. Women business owners are driving economic recovery post-natural disasters. Lack of financial literacy continues to impede women's entrepreneurial potential. Microlending is a critical capital access option for women-owned startups, and female founders need sponsors, not just mentors, to usher them toward opportunity. For more information about SBA programs and recommendations to prepare to apply for funding, please listen to our interview with Julie in episode 45 and best practices in applying for funding from Al in episode 46. To follow up Sharon's point about everyone having internet access, please listen to our interviews on what organizations are doing to solve the digital divide with Cami from Community Tech Network in episode 15 and Seth from Tech Exchange in episode 25. We hope that you enjoyed the insights, points of view, and personal stories from the voices of changemakers and their nonprofits and small businesses featured in this series. To find out more and get engaged with the nonprofits, small businesses, and staff members featured in the series, please go to my website, georgecoster.com, and click on Voices of the Community to find links to the extended versions of these interviews and to listen to the entire series. After listening to these stories, we hope that you will consider making a donation and volunteering to provide a hand up to your fellow community members. I want to thank my associate producer, Eric Estrada, and Casey Nance at Citron Studios, along with the wonderful crew at the San Francisco Public Press and KSFP. Voices of the Community is a member of Intersection for the Arts, which allows us to offer you a tax deduction for your contributions. Please go to georgecoster.com and click on the donate link to make a donation to help us provide future shows just like this one. While you're on our website, you can enjoy our archived past shows, which feature community voices working on solutions to critical issues facing Northern California communities. And you can sign up for our newsletter to find out more about future shows, as well as shows and events from the organizations that are included in our episodes. Take us along on your next COVID walk by subscribing to Voices of the Community on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at George Coster, and we'd love to hear from you with feedback and show ideas, so send us an email to george@georgecoster.com. I'm George Coster in San Francisco, and thank you for listening.